back on just in case. Awesome. Fausto, thank you, my brother, for the warm welcome. It's always good to be with you, my brother, and fired up and ready to go. Quick reminder, I'm not a registered investment advisor. I'm not a broker dealer. I don't play one on TV. Obviously, any sort of investing involves risk, and you kind of know that, but it's always good to pay the attorneys and get that stuff out of the way. You're going to be blown away. I promise you're going to be blown away from this presentation. There's no way that you all woke up this morning and expected to be in this brief. So here we go. And that's what's the beauty of life, right? So let me get a show of hands or just, comment in the chat box. How many of you woke up this morning and said, thank you? And it doesn't matter to who, the universe, God, the cat, yourself. Man, you woke up this morning. You had a roof over your head, most likely, running water, maybe somebody who loved you, a pet, family. You're on the internet right now, folks. I mean, we need good, awesome. Ishan did not wake up full of gratitude. Well, I will pray for you, my friend. So I did, right? And then I went to yoga. Right? What's this have to do with investing, Wiz? Well, how about Ray Dalio, right? I did my morning meditation. I do my afternoon meditation. You'd be absolutely surprised at a little bit of gratitude, a little bit of meditation, how it can center you to be a better trader. I've been doing this for over 3 decades, 1991, folks. 90% of trading is emotional. And the things that I'm going to talk to you about today is going to blow you away. It's going to help you fill you with some gratitude because we're going to talk about making money, which is great, right? But you're also going to be helping to save and change lives. You ready for this? So my mission objective for this brief is to brief you why the sector is not about to explode. It's already exploding, and it just might save the world. And I'm going to show you how you can profit while also helping to save and change the lives of others and maybe even yourself. Real quick, Fausto introduced me. So briefly, you can call me Wiz. I'm Matthew to my mom or my wife if I'm in trouble. U.S. Navy fighter pilot for 15 years, graduated from the Navy Fighter Weapons School, which you all call Top Gun, where I was a bad guy. I was an adversary pilot deployed on board Abraham Lincoln and Kitty Hawk, Operation Southern Watch, and then deployed also for Noble Eagle and Enduring Freedom. What's this have to do with trading? Everything in my life. Why? You don't join the Navy to get rich. You join the Navy to see the world, fly airplanes off the pointy end of a boat, and deliver serious justice to bad guys around the world. But I was always interested in trading. I knew I wasn't going to retire from the Navy and make a ton of money. So in the ready room, in between flights, going to the base library. That's how old I am, folks. Before Al Gore invented the internet in the early 90s, I'm driving to the Naval Air Station Library to read about investing in stocks and options. So I taught myself how to trade. But guess what? I also figured out that trading is a form of combat. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to get their rear end handed to them. Which one do you want to be, right? So I started applying everything I was learning as a fighter pilot. Having a strategy, implementing tactics, contingency planning. Before I even got airborne, knowing what I was going to do if something happened. How about managing risk? All right, this guy's going to give me a brief on risk management, and he's showing me a picture of him being inverted over Top Gun. Yeah, I am. Options traders, fighter pilots, want to minimize all known risks. Why? Because we want to win. How did Top Gun Options start? Well, sadly, a tragedy. On the morning of 9/11, I was getting ready for my first flight as a pilot for American Airlines. I had just left active duty, got hired by the U.S. Navy Reserve to fly F-18s out of Fort Worth, and I was living the dream as a pilot for American Airlines. That was winning the lottery. Airline pilot during the week, fighter pilot on the weekend. I was packing for my trip. My beautiful bride came in and said, you better come take a look at the TV. Somebody hit the World Trade Center with an airplane. I'm like, all right, woman, I'm busy. I'm small airplane, bad weather, don't worry about it. She had that look on her face. So I went out in the living room and I saw what you all saw. Not a cloud in the sky in New York City and a big smoking hole, not a small airplane. So I was going through my mental aviation checklist of how that could have happened, and the next plane hit. In a half a second, I knew we were under attack. I ran into the bedroom, threw my boots on, my flight suit. I moved my American Airlines uniform out of the way. It's still in my closet today, 25 years later, in the plastic from the cleaners to remind me of that day. Raced out to the Naval Air Station where I briefed with one of my squadron mates and the F-16 squadron next door. They were tied into NORAD, to North American Air Defense, and we started a combat air patrol, forcing aircraft to land. They got airborne. Gruff and I were at the end of the runway. By the time they hit their bingo fuel, everybody was on the ground. So what's this have to do with trading? Hell, guess what happened? A week after the attacks, I got a letter that said, "Dear crew member, you're furloughed." Furloughed's a polite airline term for you're fired. So, man, I had used all my savings to buy a house after the Navy. I was broke. So I turned my attention to trading full time. Before it was a hobby. Now I had to get serious. Guess what happened? I ended up, and my results turned out I was printing money. Guess what happened? I popped up on the radar of one of the largest volatility options trading firms in the world, headquartered right there in the CBOT, the Chicago Board of Trade. Everybody take a look at those big windows. That was my trading firm. That's the inside. I helped build a hedge fund when I was there. I helped build the retail brokerage some of you might have traded with called Options House. And it was a blast. I was the managing director of strategy for this multi-billion volatile arb firm. And I was the founder and CEO of the Options News Network, ONN.TV. CNBC at the time with, John and Pete Najarian, they were paying lip service to options. We did it 24/7, man. I shot on the floor of the CBO and the CBOT, giving you all a behind-the-scenes look at what was going on. I jokingly tell people I felt like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places, right? Valentine, some poor old retail trader going to the big leagues. But I found out, ladies and gentlemen, the smart money ain't that smart. How do I know that? Because I wrote a book about it. I made $2.5 million in 2 weeks during the COVID crash as Bill Ackman, Kyle Bass, Jeffrey Gundlach were literally crying on CNBC to shut the markets down, right? I remember that tweet from Donald Trump. Stocks are looking good here. I'd be a buyer of stocks. The next day, the markets imploded 3,000 points. I made $750,000. So, ladies and gentlemen, the smart money is not that smart. I've been in the rooms with people. You, me, us, we are the smart money. Also, I have a podcast called the Max Afterburner Podcast, ranked in the top 2.5% on the globe. But here is my presentation. You're going to be blown away by this, I promise you. This is my passion. Aside from putting the ladder down to help people trade and make money, this is what I do. The No Fallen Heroes Foundation. We're a 501c3 that provides healing grants for veterans, first responders, and their families to do something. And I'm going to brief you on the something, and then you're going to see how you can potentially get filthy rich while helping save lives. Why did I start the No Fallen Heroes Foundation? Well, sadly, or not sadly, because it's where I am today. I was born and raised in South Jersey, South Philadelphia, one of 6 kids, typical Irish Catholic family. I think we made the Pope look Jewish. I mean, I was an altar boy, Catholic schools. It just did not, we were that family. My older brother and my 2 sisters were going to college at Villanova University. And my sister Monica, they were all at a fraternity party one night. And my brother and my sister Marilyn said, "Hey, Monica, we're heading back to campus. Do you want to ride?" She said, "No, I'm catching a ride with these guys." And they were hit by a drunk driver. My sister was thrown from the car and she broke her neck and she was killed. Brutal. I was 8th grade. I was going into high school. Tough time for a young man anyway, going to an all-boys Catholic high school, St. Augustine Prep. My family, it was a hand grenade in the middle of my family. My parents were gone. My dad died years later of a broken heart. Incredibly tough childhood. I was also sexually abused as a child. So what do you do with a childhood like that? You go into the Navy, right? You go into the military. Let's run away from that trauma. Ladies and gentlemen, in 15 years of flying fighters, I lost 16 brothers. Not a single combat loss. This was all bad weather, mechanical issues, stupidity, act of God. It was, you name it. 16 people gone. Along the way, I lost 4 F-18 brothers to suicide, including my best friend, Captain Eric Swenson, right there, Swede. Marine F-18 pilot. He was a groom's. That's my wedding day. My best friend, Swede, beautiful bride, 5 kids, checked out. I looked at my bride and I said, we have got to do something about veteran suicide. But my transition, ladies and gentlemen, from military to civilian was incredibly bad. I'm going to be brutally honest, folks. I had some horrific dark nights of the soul on Wall Street. What do I mean by that? I made more money in my first bonus on Wall Street than most people will see in their lives. Did it do anything for me? No. It hollowed me out. When some of the, and no offense to Wall Street people, but I worked with people who would push their own mother in front of a bus for $1. And I'm not joking. I was separated from my mission, from my God, from my wife, from my kids. I went from a fighter squadron where you trust the men and women in that organization with your life, or they're not in it for much longer, to a Wall Street firm where people wear golf cleats to step on you as they climb up the ladder. It was an absolute horror. I had some pretty bad dark nights of the soul. If it wasn't for my bride and my children, I probably wouldn't be speaking to you today. So as I'm circling the drain up in Chicago, then we moved down here to Florida, and Swede checks out, man. It hurt. That's when I found out that on average, ladies and gentlemen, 22 veterans check out every day. And I hate putting this out to the universe. I hate even talking like this, but I'm going to say it. Could you imagine, God forbid, 22 children, not once a year or total in a year, 22 children were killed every day at school? This country would flip the hell out and act. But since it's the veteran community, we all just, kind of, well, that sucks. Thank you for your service. Let's move on. So 5 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, I said, I'm going to do something. I got to end veteran suicide. But what do? How do you keep a veteran from killing themselves? Help them pay the rent, write a resume, buy a suit? Clueless. Around that time, a buddy of mine came to me and he said, hey, there's a group of Navy SEAL veterans and Special Forces vets that go down to Mexico and they do psychedelic assisted therapy. And there's a really cool group going in a couple weeks. Do you want to give it a shot? I looked at him and I said, man, go to Mexico and do drugs with Navy SEALs? That sounds like a great weekend. Sign me up. I had no clue what I was in for and how it would change and save my life. How many of you have seen the movie Lone Survivor or read the book Lone Survivor? The book is obviously better than the movie. So 4 years ago, I'm glad I'm doing this brief today. 4 years ago yesterday yesterday is my 4-year anniversary of my rebirth. 4 years ago yesterday, I flew into San Diego. Why? Because if you do what I'm about to tell you and what you can invest in San Diego today, you're a felon. If you do it an hour south on the coast in Mexico at a beautiful clinic, it'll save and change your life. So I met these 4 other incredible human beings in San Diego. That's Marcus Luttrell. Any of you invest or know Black Rifle Coffee? That's JT, Jared Taylor. He was an Air Force JTAC. like a combat, a forward air controller. That's JJ, John Jones. He was a Navy SEAL officer. He served with Marcus. And then we had a civilian joining us. Anybody an Iowa Hawkeye fan? This guy's name is Robert Gallery. He was an All-American at Iowa. He just got into the College Football Hall of Fame, as a matter of fact. And then he played for the Raiders. This guy, I rode in the car with him. We did a little convoy from San Diego down to this retreat center. I sat next to him in a car. He was dead. 6'7", 300-pound, dead walking human being. He was on his last legs. Now, you can go listen to one of my podcasts where I debrief this entire experience, but for the sake of time, and I want to share with you how all the power of this stuff. This was without a doubt one of the, I've done some very challenging things in my life, folks. Landing an F-18 on a carrier at night in the middle of the Pacific, low on fuel, bad weather, was a walk in the park compared to this. This was a 12 to 14 hour ass kicking. It wasn't fun. It wasn't recreational. It was extremely challenging. It healed 4 decades of trauma. I was a drinker. I don't know if you can be a good drinker. I was a bad drinker. Up to a year after a single dose of ibogaine, the medicine we'll talk about in a second, I couldn't look at or smell alcohol. It made me ill. I got to experience my sister. I got to experience my father, and I got to reconnect with, I lost my faith for decades, folks. What type of God kills your sister and has you sexually abused? I reconnected with my faith. Again, I listened to the Max Afterburner podcast, episode 7. You can get the full debrief, but here's what I'm going to tell you. I got home and I said, this is how we're going to end veteran suicide. So guess what's happened in the past 3 weeks? I'm going to step through something real quick and you're going to be blown away. And as I'm talking, it's funny because I have this publicly traded psychedelic stocks over here and they're actually rallying. I wonder if they're listening to me. So I'm that guy, right? On April 29th, I had a calendar reminder on my phone. Why? It was the 100-day point of this administration. That popped up on my calendar and I said, well, if I hadn't heard anything from this administration on this issue, I'm going to take a flamethrower to them. And I did. Guess what happened? I blasted the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. We need your leadership ASAP. People are dying. You need to go full throttle on this issue. He answered me. As I said before, I'm not going to click on this. It goes to his tweet. But anyway, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs answered me. Guess what happened the next day? I woke up to a direct message from the Secretary. Hey, Whiz, I need your help. I see what you're doing. You're doing some good work. Can you reach out to my chief of staff? And we'd love to talk to you. I was blown away, folks. Then what happened? 2 days later, in a cabinet meeting, I've never in my 57 years on this planet heard a president of the United States say the words veteran suicide. But after, and I'm not digging the cabinet meetings right now. It's like a self-licking ice cream cone. I don't like it. But anyway, Secretary Collins gave his little 1 to 2 minute, hey, here's what the great things going on at the VA. President Trump leaned forward, looked at him and said, what's going on with veteran suicide? My wife ran into the office because she heard me yelling. She thought something bad happened. Then what happened? The VA secretary looked at the president and said, well, we're throwing a ton of money at veteran suicide and it ain't working. The numbers are stable, if not going up. They're going up. And then what he said after this was the culmination of 4 years of a hard grind. He said, Mr. President, there's nonprofits out there doing some good work using psychedelics. We're going to look into it, make sure it's safe and everything like that. But I'm really positive that psychedelics can help heal our veterans. Ladies and gentlemen, I was absolutely blown away. Then what happened? This is all in the span of the past 3 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. I flew up to DC. Why? Because I was going to the National Press Club for a federal summit on psychedelic medicine. I talked to the chief of staff for Secretary Collins. I said, hey, I'm going to be up there next Thursday. I can come by the office on Wednesday. Guess what happened? They said, yeah, we'd love to meet you in person. I went into the VA, ladies and gentlemen, which is shocking to me. I didn't go to the VA building as a patient or a protester. I went from the border to the Beltway. Guess what happened? Here's what's funny is I go to the VA, go up to the 10th floor. It's overlooking the White House. And I'm talking to these people, the chief, like the heavies at the VA. And at one point, the lady, the chief of staff, halfway through, at about 30 minutes into our meeting, I'm on a roll, man. I'm briefing her, and these people are on the edge of their seat. She picks up her phone and starts texting. And I'm like, well, that's rude. I wouldn't do that. Now, in hindsight, I think I know what she was doing, right? The first half an hour was feeling me out, like, is this guy nuts or is he on the level? Because after she put her phone down, like 1 minute later, in walks the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Secretary Collins came in and said, Whiz, I heard you were in the building. I want to come and shake your hand. And I said, well, Mr. Secretary, that's pretty awesome because I'd love to shake your hand. And I briefed that guy and I said, Mr. Secretary, this saved and changed my life. Me, Marcus, thousands and thousands of veterans have gone to Mexico, Costa Rica to do this therapy, and it worked. Trump's VA secretary meets with psychedelic therapy advocate to discuss expanding access for military veterans. When I'm going to ripple through this because we have to talk about the stocks and the investing. When I was meeting with the secretary, 2 lawmakers sent him a letter. You know who one of the lawmakers was? Lieutenant General Jack, did you hear that? Jack Bergman. This guy is a 3-star Marine general, retired, who was a naval aviator like me. It doesn't get any more Republican military than Jack Bergman. And then Congressman Lou Correa, who's a Democrat from California. Talk about bipartisanship, man. They're like the odd couple. Meat-eating Marine and a liberal from SoCal, both united in this to get psychedelics to our veterans. Guess what happened when I was in DC? The president announced his new Surgeon General pick. This doctor, ladies and gentlemen, said that psychedelics helped save her and helped her find love. The Surgeon General nominee, and then guess what happened about 3 days ago? The FDA commissioner. Exploring psychedelic medicine is a top priority for the Trump administration. Holy shnikes, ladies and gentlemen. I am blown away. 4 years after going to Mexico to the month, this is happening. So this is the way. This sector is exploding, and I'm going to get into it right now. So we give healing grants to veterans, first responders, and their family members. Venture capitalists, Wall Street is piling into the space, and we're going to brief that right now. Real quick, though, it would infuriate me hopping on an airplane to fly to San Diego to drive to Mexico. It would infuriate me getting on an airplane in Fort Lauderdale to fly to Costa Rica. I'm having to take young men and women who incurred trauma serving this one to another country to heal? Thank you, voters in Colorado, Oregon, New Mexico. These medicines are legal at the state level. We have done 6 healing retreats, finally, in the great United States of America. Last week, ladies and gentlemen, the state of Texas, doesn't get any more Republican or red, approved a $50 million initiative into the medicine I sat with called ibogaine. And we're going to talk about that. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you this pie chart for free. This is the Psychedelic Alpha. It's a great website, Psychedelic Alpha, the bullseye. Let me go give you this so you have this as a resource. The psychedelic space is exploding. You can click on the pie and you can zoom in. Let me give you this. So you have it. There are several publicly traded psychedelic companies that I would buy with both hands. Let's just drill in a little bit here. Okay. Now, so John, absolutely right here, John. Great question, my brother. I sat with this. Ibogaine is the most powerful psychedelic on the planet. So, John, we helped a Navy SEAL who was a breacher, right at the door, explosives, concussion, traumatic brain injury. His brain scans from the VA were dark and gray and black. 3 months after sitting with Ibogaine, they were completely clear. Ibogaine has incredible neuroplasticity. It regrows dead or damaged neural pathways and creates new ones. Folks, I'm going to be honest. I didn't go to Mexico to be a better trader or pilot or anything. However, I went to go be a better human, father, husband. But guess what happened? When I got home, it was like Neo in the Matrix with my trading and everything in my life. It's like God, I choose to use the word God, scrubbed my brain and my vision, and I saw everything in a different light. So great question. I'm glad you asked that. They are doing studies into Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all sorts of neurological issues. Absolutely, John. You are never too old, my brother, to receive healing. So this pie chart right here, this public company, Atai. Let's go take a look at Atai ripping recently. ATAI, Atai. In the past week, folks, it went from $1.40 all the way up to, folks, this is up like 50% in a week. It's up 8% today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just do this real quick. 41%. Sorry about that. It's up 41% essentially in a week. Okay. These names are exploding. 8%. It was up 10% the other day, another 10%. Atai I would buy with both hands. And before I really rip into these names and give you what I'm investing in the psychedelic space, let me be clear. I'm torn about this. What do you mean? Folks, I have a ton of money in this space. I am an investor in a private company called Demorex, Dr. Deborah Mash. She is using Ibogaine to cure AUD, alcohol use disorder. I just told you I couldn't even, looking at somebody having a drink made me sick. It can cure AUD, alcohol use disorder. 39 million Americans, and I think like several hundred million in the world suffer from AUD. Here's what I'm getting at about that. Because Dr. Mash, let me give this to you if you're interested. She did a brief with us the other day on investing in Demorex. And I'm bringing this up because I don't want this to happen, but I want it to happen. Where's Dr. Mash's brief? If you really want to, she's known as the queen of Ibogaine, Dr. Mash. She's been working with this compound since 1993. But let me brief you on something because, oh, here it is. It says Demorex, Dr. Mash. Sorry about that. If you're interested in this, but here's what I'm not thrilled about, but I'm thrilled about. And that might sound confusing to you, but let me brief you on this. There is no way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're sitting in the headquarters of Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer or Moderna or Eli Lilly, that you're going to let some little Demorex company cure AUD. There's another company we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes called MindMed. MN. This is another one you need to buy with both hands. MNMD. Write these down. Look at MindMed the past couple of weeks. It went from 6 all the way up to 8. These names are good. It's up 4% today, folks. If you're Pfizer, any of big pharma, you are not going to let this happen. So here's why I'm torn. My prediction in this space, ladies and gentlemen, and I know it's going to come true. They are going to swoop in soon with their size 12 checkbooks and stroke a big one and buy all these companies. Folks, Janssen, look at the center of this bullseye. The center of the bullseye means it's approved and it's currently on the market. Does anybody know how much money Spravato, ketamine, brought in last year? In a year. 1 year, ladies and gentlemen, for Janssen. Anybody want to take a guess? I'll give it to you. $1 billion. Not in like 20 years, folks. In a year. So what I'm getting at is all of these companies, and we're going to talk about these companies too. Compass, Cybin, those are publicly traded companies. Lycos is private, but you have probably heard of them because they're working with MDMA. So as an investor, I want Big Pharma to come in with their size 12 checkbook and buy it. You will, if you don't invest in these names today, you're going to shoot me an email in a year and go, I'm furious at myself, Whiz. I just saw on CNBC, breaking news, MindMed has been acquired by Pfizer and the stock is up 1,000% right now, type of thing. That is going to happen. Now, what Big Pharma does with these names is up to them. What do I mean by that? They might buy these things, folks, and do what with them? Put them on the shelf. I'm not going to tell you anything new right now. There is no money in healing. Big Pharma wants customers. They don't want healed humans. So this is what I don't want to happen, is them to buy this stuff and put it on the shelf. But don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, God, the universe, divine, truth, creator, you choose the word, I choose God, put these things on this planet for us to heal. Ibogaine comes from iboga. It's root bark from Gabon, Africa. Psilocybin you might even have in your yard, right? LSD comes from ergot. So here's what sucks is they could buy, I'm going to buy Demerex and change a molecule and call it ibogaine and we're going to charge $30,000 for it. That can happen. As an investor, I'm going to be thrilled because I'm going to print money on that. As a healer, as somebody who wants these medicines accessible to everybody as much as possible, that's going to suck, right? But you're here with Fausto and CTU and this great couple days of trading. You want to make money? You buy the psychedelic names today. You should have bought them a year ago. But anyway, let's go. I'm going to ripple through the names that I would buy with both hands. Let's start again with a tie. The first one is a tie, ATAI. The volume has been exploding in this name for the past couple weeks. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, when the damn FDA commissioner, what was this, 3 days ago says, this is our top priority. He's the guy that's going to lead the rescheduling of these things. Remember, and we're all going to have a laugh right now. Let me go find this. It's not going to be a funny laugh. It's going to be a pissed off laugh. What do I mean by this? You're gonna get it when I show you. Where is it? Harm. Where? Is it in downloads? Let me look for the harm scale. This sucks because everything I'm talking to you about right now, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. Let me pull this up and show you. You ready to be pissed off? Ladies and gentlemen, the ibogaine that I did in Mexico is a Schedule 1 drug. It's a felony. The definition of a Schedule 1 drug is no therapeutic use and a high risk of addiction. Did you not hear me talk about ibogaine? It was the most therapeutic thing I've ever done in my life, and it destroyed alcohol. Hell, I couldn't drink coffee for 6 months. It destroyed everything in my life that was addicting. Illegal. So let's take a look at this chart. Alcohol, tobacco. This is harm to others and to you, right? Harm to others is red, harm to you is blue. Alcohol, tobacco, 100% legal, baby. Psilocybin, which can't hurt anybody else and barely you, is a felony. It's a Schedule 1 drug with no therapeutic use and a high risk of addiction. Hell, look at LSD and ecstasy compared to tobacco and alcohol. The definition of no therapeutic use and a high risk of addiction is alcohol and tobacco. Why am I sharing this with you? because the damn FDA commissioner is going to be one of the ones that would have to lead the effort to reschedule those things. Folks, ketamine, if you've heard of that, is a Schedule 3. So my ibogaine, the psilocybin we do in Oregon or Colorado, needs to be rescheduled. Have any of you seen, I'm not going to watch it, I'm going to share it with you, and I'll give you the cliff notes. How many of you have seen this clip with RFK Jr.? When RFK Jr. was running for president as a Democrat, he was asked, I'll find the clip and share it with you because it makes me tear up every time I listen to it. So I'll pause it and give you this link. He was asked, how do you feel about psychedelics? What was his answer? He said, well, I'm a recovering heroin addict. And when I heard about this, and I'm a recovering alcoholic and heroin addict, and it just sounds like the dumbest thing in the world, psychedelics. That's up until my wife, sadly, took her life in 2012. After my wife committed suicide, one of my sons was done. I could tell it was over with. He was next. A buddy of his put him on a plane and they went to Peru. And when he got back and I saw him for the first time, I knew I got my son back. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy went from I'm a heroin and alcoholic recoverer, psychedelics sound awful, to it saved my son's life. So RFK, the FDA commissioner, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs in a cabinet meeting, for God's sake, told the president about psychedelics for veterans. So either this is going to happen. I mean, this is common sense. It's either going to happen or it's not. And it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, I think Fausto and this group, look at the top just popped another % in this brief. If you guys are buying it, you are moving this right now. Let's zoom in a little bit. That's us, man. Look at this. We got into this brief and it's been level, and I guarantee you that's you guys pushing this thing up. Look at that. I guarantee you, folks. Look at the volume spiking as we're doing this brief right now. Folks, it's $2. Throw $1,000, throw $2,000 at it right now. Or, I'm an options trader. Let me give you my rule of thumb, though, as Whiz, the options trader. I don't trade options on stocks under $10. Why? That's the option. The stock is the option. It's the same premium, essentially, almost. But if you're kind of cheap, here's what you could do. Go out to November. Go out to the fall. Go out to November of 2025 and buy some upside calls, right? I mean, there's actually some activity in these, down here. Yeah. I call these lottery tickets, man. If between now and November, you see that breaking news on CNBC, breaking news, a tie has been acquired for whatever, these things are your retirement. So I'm of the strong opinion that Big Pharma, let's go back to our psychedelic wheel, is not going to let this succeed. I mean, Janssen capitalized it right there with Spravato, which is great. And then look at this. S-ketamine is getting ready to be approved for suicidal depression. So let me get back to rippling through the names so you know what I'm investing in. And I'm going to give you some infrastructure names too. So Atai, we already covered. MindMed. Let me show you a recent research report on MindMed. Don't trust Whiz. I mean, I would, but let me give you MNMD, MindMed. Here it is right here. Let me show you this research report on MindMed. So when this report came out, the stock was around $5. They give a $25. This is Oppenheimer. This ain't Whiz. I think it's low, but they give a $25 price target. Why? On the medicine called MM120. What does this treat? GAD, generalized anxiety disorder. Why is my scroll wheel not working? Folks, I forget how many millions of Americans suffer from GAD. It's somewhere in here, folks, but generalized anxiety disorder. A single dose of this medicine, I think you can Google all this stuff and read these reports on your own. I think it was like 80% were cured. Did you hear me use that word? I didn't say treated or 10% felt a little. Hell, man, 10%, with a drug feels better. That's considered a success. 80%. So MindMed is the other name I would buy. Cybin. Everybody knows Stevie Cohen, right? Steve Cohen from SAC Capital. If you watch Billions, right? It's Stevie Cohen. He has pumped a ton. Just Google Cybin, CYBN, and Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen, one of the largest hedge fund managers on the planet. Extremely bullish on psychedelics. His son, former Marine, healed with these medicines. Another big name, Compass. Write all these down. CMPS. Compass Pathways. Another really strong name. Wow, look at that pop. Another really strong name, ladies and gentlemen. You know what, Whiz? I suck at picking stocks. Don't. Let me give you an analogy here. Fausto and I were day trading right around the .com boost. This is, when I look at some of these names, I'm telling you, this is the internet 1999. What do I mean by that? There's a Netscape and a pets.com, and then there's an Amazon and a Google. You pick the right two, you're rich for the rest of your life. You pick the wrong two, you're broke. So instead of picking winners in the psychedelic space, how about you go take a look at this man? PSIL. PSIL. It's the psychedelic ETF. Let's go take a look at what's in PSIL. There we go, right here. You don't have to pick. Look at what's in PSIL. MindMed, Atai, Compass, Cybin, the four I like, and then you get Quantum, NRX. Oh, this is the one with that depression medicine, the ketamine. Sage, I like Sage Therapeutics. GH Research is another solid name. So look at this, folks. Don't pick winners. Go pick a basket of them. It's called an ETF, Exchange Traded Fund. Now, if you're sitting here going, exactly, John, isn't this awesome? I hope that's a good thing. You can't believe what you're hearing. And I know Fausto's a crypto guy. I love my crypto brothers and sisters. I don't get it. I'm like a caveman staring at a wristwatch with crypto. Here's what I do get. The underlying. I like the power. I like the chips. I like the networks. I don't get the Doge. It's a dog or coin or a ether this, crypto, whatever. I don't even, Bitcoin. How about the infrastructure? Let me tell you something real quick. So I am on the board of advisors for a REIT called Healing Realty Trust, HRT. What's this have to do with anything? Ladies and gentlemen, when, not if, these medicines become legal for therapeutic use, you're not going to be doing them in your doctor's office, right? You're not going to be doing MDMA, a 6-hour MDMA journey on wax paper on an examining room table with some National Geographics from the 70s on the table, right? So I'm in a private REIT right now. Why? Because we are scooping up existing hospital campus spaces, right? Remember years ago, I'm old, there was no urgent care or dialysis centers. You went to the hospital. Guess what? I live right near Boca Raton Hospital, folks. There, within a mile of the hospital is a massive campus. So we are building the infrastructure for when these medicines, these are all existing medical complexes that we're going to repurpose for what? These medicines, right? If you're going to go do a journey, you're not going to be, in a regular doctor's office. It's got to be a big room with a couch and a separate bathroom and 2 chairs in there for the people holding space. And, it's going to be filmed and everything like that. That infrastructure doesn't exist. Well, Wiz, why are you telling me about a company, a private REIT that you're an investor in when I can't get in it? Because there's two companies right now who are copying us. AHR, American Healthcare REIT. They went public a year ago. You want to take a look at how the stock did in a year? Last February, AHR went public. Look at them today. The stock is up 166% in a year. American Healthcare REIT. Now, let me show you something. They're printing money like we are. They have a 3% dividend. Whoa. I'm going to do you one better. Sabra. SBRA. Sabra Healthcare REIT. The stock is a little bit more stable. It's not, super up and to the right. It's kind of hovers. But look at this. I mean, when I told my folks to get into it, when was that? About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it's up 54% since I told, well, let's move that a little bit. Yeah, 55%. This stock is up 55%, but check this out. 7% dividend. You know what Uncle Wiz does? He buys these shares. I get a nice dividend, and I sell upside calls against it. It's called a covered call. I'm making a nice 5 to 10% a month on Sabra, SBRA. I can sell a cash secured put on it, do a covered call, and get a 7% dividend with a name that's copying what I'm doing in my REIT, Realty Investment Healing Realty Trust. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're sitting here going, I don't know, is these psychedelic? These are biotech names, folks. I'm telling you, these are lottery ticket plays. Over here in the psilocybin, thing, and I get it. Then, kind of like the crypto, the meme coins. Don't try and pick some winners from the bullseye. Go pick the infrastructure names that are giving an incredibly solid dividend. Isn't that cool? I'm in both, man. I'm in Demerex up here on the advisory board. We had opened the doors. Dr. Mash came in and gave a presentation last week to my TOPGUN Options members. I think we got 30 new investors into Demerex. It's a private. If you're interested, you can shoot me an email. I'd have to check with the CFO to see if there's any more room. And then yesterday, any hockey fans in here? Yesterday, Daniel Carcillo, he's a brother from another mother. He's got a place out in Oregon called New Growth Connections, and he's opening a place in Colorado. He's looking for investors. So I think as of this morning, about 11 current TGO members reached out to Daniel and said, hey, I'd love to invest in New Growth Connections. He's the clinic in Oregon is printing money. He's got 4,000 people on the list to do a retreat in Oregon at his place. $2,500 for a weekend. The guy, I'm on the board. I have equity in the company. It's printing money too. I'm not here to talk about that stuff, but if you're interested, you can always shoot me an email and we can see if you can get in there. But yeah, Daniel Carcillo is a 2-time Stanley Cup champ with the Blackhawks. I hated him on the Blackhawks. I loved him when he was on the Flyers. But he's on the board of our foundation, folks. Why? Google Daniel Carcillo fights. Google and see what he was. A goon, folks. Blood on the jersey, no teeth, 7 concussions, and the man was on death's door. 7 diagnosed concussions. Guess what happened? He healed with the medicine, folks. He is a incredible human being. He's helping. He and I are doing a study out at Experience Onward in Oregon. He's got NFL Super Bowl champions. He's got NHL Stanley Cup champs. I have veterans with traumatic brain injury. We are doing a study with psilocybin to heal these folks. So, yeah. Dan, you know what? Dr. Mash covered this. They are actually doing some research into autism and how it is these medicines are potentially helping with autistic folks. It helps them relax. in certain situations. I'm not going to fully speak to that. I'm telling you, there is active research going on. I think if you dig into the psychedelic wheel, my brother, I forget who is researching that, man, but is it Delix? Hold on, man. It's jumping around. Well, down here, there's Parkinson's research. You do a little. Is it these guys? Awaken. Long answer, short question is yes. I am hearing good things. So, folks, it's almost like, again, I choose to use the word guide. It's almost like some entity that put us all here also said, you know what? I'm going to put some stuff on here for you guys to heal too. Robert, it does not. As I'm sitting here talking to you right now, Robert, I have horrific tinnitus for the rest of my life. But Robert, if you listen to my podcast debrief, for months after the medicine, my tinnitus was, I didn't notice it. It was still there. It helped me deal with it, Robert. It completely changed how I view this tinnitus. And how much time do I have left? I don't want to eat into somebody else's time here, but Robert, do me a favor. It's called the Max Afterburner Podcast, episode 7. I'm glad you asked, man, because I had struggled with my tinnitus, and it completely reframed how I deal with it. And I'm not gonna steal my thunder from my podcast. Episode 7, my brother, is where I talk about that, because I'm like you. When I try and meditate in the morning, I can never sit in silence for the rest of my life. It sounds like, flying fighters for 15 years. I'm reminded of it for the rest of until I die with this tinnitus in my head. But man, it completely changed how I deal with it. So I want to hook you up with that. All right. Hey, I think I ate into my pitch here, but AR, the Accelerated Retirement Brief, every Wednesday at 10 a.m. is we look at longer dated trades and psychedelics and stuff like this, things that are potentially explosive. When I used to drink, I'd say $96 is a cheap bottle of wine. Since I don't really drink anymore, what can I say? It's a nice dinner, folks. $96, 30 days. It's $96 for the rest of your life if you want to stay in there. Try it out for 30 days at $96. Most people email me like after a couple months ago, dude, put me in the annual so I can save a little money. I'm ready to go. Or do the annual out of the gate, folks. But this is the portfolio. The Accelerated Retirement Portfolio is where I talk about all of our investing in this space. Don't do me a favor, do you a favor. Options Weapons School. You get 7 sessions for a little bit of an upsell right there, $297. You get Options Weapons School. Whiz, I have no idea what a put is. I have no idea what a call is. That's what I'm here for. So down here, our Options Weapons School training, you get 7 sessions, starting with, hey, this is the market. These are stocks. These are options. These are calls. These are puts, all the way down to advanced tactics like synthetic stock. And this one's worth its weight in gold. If you guys follow me at all on social, I shoot S&P 500, what I call sniper shots. We shot one this morning that made, what was it, 60%, $1,200 in 21 minutes. Men lie, trades don't. So I'll go show you. Where is it? Right there, folks. Boom. Tom, 50% gain. Look at this. I shot a bull put spread at the open, and I closed it 21 minutes later for a $1,200 profit. So Options Weapons. Oh, that's why I was talking about it, because that training, that session 7, gets you how I do my sniper methodology. Okay. But folks, I hope I hit my mission objective when I started and I did the whole, you're going to be blown away and you've never heard what you're about to hear. Like, okay, Wiz. Yeah, right. Hopefully that's the case. 4 years ago, yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, I sat with psychedelic assisted therapy and it saved and changed my life. There's no way in hell, ladies and gentlemen, 4 years ago, Wiz, if I heard me talking like this in investing brief, I would have kicked my own ass. If I heard me talking about gratitude, meditation, psychedelics, I literally would have stole my own lunch money. But that guy died on a mattress on a floor of a home in Mexico overlooking the Pacific. And I thank God every day for everything that has happened to me since then. I can actually, I don't know too many people who can say this, but I am thankful for my suffering. I find gratitude in loss and everything that happened to me because it brought me to this point. So if you're interested, like I said, thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. If you're interested, $96 a month, man. If it's your last $96, don't do it. But if you want to hear more about investing and potentially getting into good deals like this, I think Demerex and Daniel's stuff is closed. I mean, Daniel got, I think he raised 200 grand in the brief yesterday. And then Dr. Mash, because if you don't get into these now, I think it's, you have to be an accredited investor in like 250 grand or whatever that means. But if you're interested, just shoot me an email. Even if you don't join Accelerated Retirement and you have questions about potentially healing with these medicines, I'm here for you, man. Or, and I'll end on this high note. If you know a veteran, a first responder, or a family member who's in a bad place or needs a little help, do me a favor and send them to our website, nofallenheroesfoundation.org. Right up here on the top right, they can apply for a grant. Okay. And that will get them in our system. I think our next retreat is up in Oregon in a couple weeks. And then we have another one in Colorado shortly. So veteran, first responder, or family member, we're here for them. Sadly, I mean, our waiting list is kind of big, folks. And obviously with the market volatility and, uncertainty, our donations have kind of gotten a little skosh. We're on fumes. But I do, Susie and I, my bride, we kind of throw money over the fence from, TOPGUN Options into the foundation to kind of keep us going. So awesome. All right. I took us right up to the deadline there. Fausto, my brother, thank you again for having me. I appreciate this platform, this opportunity to be able to talk about potentially investing to save and change lives. And hopefully some folks got something out of it. If not, I failed miserably. So I will throw it back to you, my brother. But once again, thank you for having me, and fights on. I still got to get you airborne too, my friend.
I will. And thanks for coming here. I know in your busy schedule, and keep up the hard work and the support and those Alex, everything that you pitched is great. Just thanks for everything you're doing, and thanks for your service, and enjoy your Memorial Day. All right.
You too, my brother. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
All right. Good. So we're going to go right into it.